But this next story, we have Condoleezza Rice going on The View, which is a show of, as Tim Dillon will put it, there's so many intelligent women in the world. They just don't seem to work for The View. That's my take I get from a lot of these segments. But in this one, I was actually a little proud of one of the members that I'm a little critical on when I see things go viral of such in this nature. So I'm going to click on it so we can see what Condoleezza Rice on critical race theory in America is.
So the tight governor's race in blue-leaning Virginia is being seen as a barometer for which way America will swing in 2022 in the midterms. And one of the key issues up for debate is how much of a voice parents should have in their child's school curriculum, especially when it comes to subjects like sex education and critical race theory. I thought they didn't teach critical race theory until they went to like law school or something.
That's right.
I sure hope not, because I'm not certain 7-year-olds need to learn it.
It just sounds crazy to me. So, but the question is, do parents need more influence here, or should they leave the lesson planning to the pros?
Well, I was a teacher, and there is a curriculum that teachers follow, and it's studied by supposedly experts. I have a lot of education credits because you learn how to teach and you learn your subject. So you can't really pit that up against a parent who just is annoyed that you're teaching, To Kill a Mockingbird or whatever the curriculum says. You can't have the parents interfering to that extent in the curriculum. But it's nice to hear from them. But if they are adamant and they don't want you to teach what is going to be taught, period, they're going to have to homeschool their kids because this is not going to wash.
Well, they're actually homeschooling them in increasing numbers. And I think that's a signal. First of all, parents ought to be involved in their children's education. Their children are in school 7 hours. That's a very formative period. And I think parents ought to have a say. We used to have parent-teacher conferences. We used to have PTAs. There are lots of ways for parents to be involved, and they should be. But if I could take a moment to talk about the whole issue of critical race theory and what is and is not being taught. I come out of an academic institution, and this is something that academics debate, what is the role of race and so forth. And let me be very clear. I grew up in segregated Birmingham, Alabama. I couldn't go to a movie theater or to a restaurant with my parents. I went to segregated schools till we moved to Denver. My parents never thought I was going to grow up in a world without prejudice, but they also told me that's somebody else's problem, not yours. You're going to overcome it, and you are going to be anything you want to be. And that's the message that I think we ought to be sending to kids.
That's actually a good message to send to kids. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of a message I give to like my niece and nephew. I'm a huge active uncle, and I tell them like you can literally be whatever you want to put your mind to. There's going to be loopholes and more work you have to do than your other counterparts because of your race, though. So I mean, both parts are true. Both parts are true. Now you're acknowledging that you were able to overcome the situation that you were placed in because of your race and only your race. And even in the quote we just had from Colin Powell, was something I read about him when he came back home from his initial stint overseas. He came back and he told the person that he was black, and they didn't serve him at a restaurant in the South. That's not the American dream. And if within your lifetime, which you know what I'm saying, you've experienced outright and straight racism towards you, it affects the life that you're able to obtain in people other than you. This is the reason why critical race theory is kind of an important thing, because, you know, it's not just about your individual experience. And this is something I also stated with the Kevin Samuel thing. We can't have an individual experience and say that's the end all be all for life. Those are good exceptions. But your personal experience in life does not make up the personal experience for every other individual in your circumstance. And that's a true statement across the board for a lot of people. I grew up really, I ain't gonna say really poor, but I grew up poor. I lived in one of the most expensive cities in the world, and I still do, Washington, D.C. I've had poor education systems. I've been in school with, you know, it's just a different environment than you would think you would want to be in. But, you know, a lot of people when you're in survival mode, especially at an early age, it also affects the way that your educational system is. And a lot of these poverty-stricken environments, which we come from, tend to have those things placed on top of the kids. You know what I'm saying? And to say that critical race theory wouldn't matter at that age is kind of a falsehood, because you're still learning history. Critical race theory is basically based on the principles of teaching history, in my opinion. Are we going to give all the facts, or are we going to care about what the fuck your feelings are? Give all the facts, Miss Lady. Another person who worked for that Bush administration. I agree. Empower kids. You should empower all kids. If you put your mind to it, you can achieve amazing things, but we can't act like what's taking place isn't taking place. We can't pretend that.
One of the worries that I have about the way that we're talking about race is that it either seems so big that somehow white people now have to feel guilty for everything that happened in the past. I don't think that's very productive. Or black people have to feel disempowered by race. I would like...
then again, I'm not going to say we're going to be disempowered by race, but if you go through history and you see plenty of black people who were successful and stuff, and you also got situations where black people got successful in communities, and particularly things with race came into play in the 1900s, and they took away all the wealth that they created in those black communities. Every school should know about Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, and countless other race riots that took place across the 1900s. These are real incidents that affected the legacy of where a lot of people's families would be. So we can't act like race doesn't play a role in everything. And no, not every white person or their family participated, but they benefit from the system that takes place. The system that's already there. I didn't invent the system, I just live in it. And, you know, I had to be truthful in the environment that I come from and the game I have to play to get the things I want out of life. It's just, you know, again, one of those things when I say facts should not be deterred by your feelings. If you're going to feel bad because of what your ancestors did, then that's a discussion on how to rectify the shit your ancestors did. And it shouldn't solely fall on the one individual, but, you know, that's how you start. You got to reach one individual at a time and have that conversation and be open to have that conversation.
Black kids to be completely empowered, to know that they are beautiful in their blackness, but in order to do that, I don't have to make white kids feel bad for being white. So somehow this is a conversation that has gone in the wrong.
Pretty sure the majority white audience enjoy clapping on it. Don't make my child feel bad because my father called his father a nigger and went to the town square to watch him get hung. White people used to go to the town square to watch people get hung. Openly. This ain't even over 100 years ago. No, this shit was still happening within that time frame. Like, give me a break.
Direction.
Repeat that last part. You don't have to watch.
Yeah, you know, there's a little bit of it in order for black kids who, quite frankly, for a long time, the way they were portrayed, the way their history was portrayed, it was second-class citizenship.
Of course.
It's still going to be second-class citizenship if I have to now try when I want to teach something, I have to worry about whether I'm going to offend the feelings of white kids for giving the actual stories of history. Preposterous. Preposterous.
But I don't have to make white children feel bad about being white in order to overcome the fact that black children were...
How does that happen? I have a couple examples here, actually. In Cupertino, California, in an elementary school, third graders are instructed to rank themselves based on their power and their privilege. California's Department of Education is proposing to eliminate opportunities for accelerated math in the name of equity. In Greenwich, a white bias survey is handed out to 7th grade English class. A New York private school is... separating by race, gender, and ethnicity, white identifying group met with a white consultant who displayed a slide that named supposed characteristics of white supremacy. An equity statement from the school district of Palm Beach County outlined the initiative dismantling structures rooted in white advantage. It's happening across the country.
Well, but again, if you have a teacher, history is going to be taught.
Yeah, absolutely,
History is going to be taught. And as we were talking earlier, you know, when you go to Texas, you talk to Mexican kids who feel like crap because they're being told they're less than because of the Alamo. The whole idea of teaching history is...
Well, I can't verify that statement. That's something I'm gonna have to go pull up and look up. But I mean, I can see why if you were a Mexican kid here, why you'll be offended. You know, Americans kind of stole your land in that case. Especially if people were from that landmass, I would be a little offended too. You know what I'm saying? You're in a country who stole your original land physically. That we can actually go back and say, hey, Texas has only been around, 150 years, something like that. 170 years probably now. Yeah, that's more recent history again. That's a great-great-great-grandparent away from you being there.
So we don't repeat it. So I think that if you're a good teacher, you don't teach to make a white kid feel bad. Right. You're supposed to say, listen, you didn't do any of this, but you should know what happened. And make sure, along with black kids and Native American kids and all the colors that be in school.
I have no problem with letting people know what happened.
Yes.
But let's remember, history is complex. Right?
It is.
Human beings aren't angels now, and they weren't angels in the past.
No.
And so how we teach about our history is also important.
But you have to, there's no way to hide the fact that white people owned black people. There's no way to hide that.
And I think that's been the issue, that there's been this sort of rollback of history. People want to hide history.
They definitely want to change and hide history. It's giving me a law society. For people don't know, the Law Society, there were a group of people from the South that helped dictate the way history will be taught post the Civil War. Crazy that you would think the losers would get to choose how you're going to teach the rest of the world how the shit went.
Well, I don't.
And, yes, that is true.
45 seconds, guys.
And what we are seeing is this rollback of history. Parents don't want children to hear about the real history. And when we teach children about the real history, I think that is when we will really have true racial reconciliation.
People are being taught the true history, but I just have to...
They are not. I'm sorry, Condi. I agree with you on the empowering, but you're going to your feelings now. We know it. I've seen some of these textbooks. They're not teaching the true history. I've been to school myself. I've learned more outside of school about the truths or the omissions that's there, because they'll teach history, but they'll omit so much shit. Like, don't omit key facts that lead me to one place. Don't omit that. There's like not that many great American presidents. Most of them did fuck shit that helped a specific group of people. Let's be honest. But because, they were considered patriots, we can't talk about the patriots.
One more thing. It goes back to how we teach the history.
That's what I'm saying.
We teach the good and we teach the bad of history.
Yep,
but what we don't do is make 7- and 10-year-olds feel that they are somehow bad people because of the color of their skin. We've been through that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we don't need to do that again.
We don't want anybody to feel that.
Precisely.
The difference is when you're trying to say, as you as a 7 and 8-year-old, people were treating you bad because of their lack of knowledge, their stupidity, their feelings. There was nothing in history that stated these cases for the masses of black people to be considered inadequate to what their white counterparts were. During the time you live, when Woodrow Wilson was president, and they got reports back showing that blacks from the North were outpacing whites from the South in so many aspects of life. He helped resegregate the military. That's a key component to the way that we live now. He resegregated the military at like 1916, some shit like that. How, in those cases, could we act like, those things wouldn't hurt people's feelings? I mean, it's fucking facts. Like, to say that now us teaching actual facts and actual things that we can concretely establish as truths, as facts, as history, shouldn't hurt somebody's feelings. It shouldn't. But you targeting somebody because of their skin color, not knowing what they can accomplish, what they can do, that's targeted racism. And this is what goes back to the critical race theory thing. Now we're creating protected classes again. We're not having an equal playing field when it comes to information or history.
idea.
That doesn't seem to be part of the plan.
Oh, it is part of the plan.
I mean,
I'm
you know,
sorry.
in Germany, they teach the Holocaust to every student.
Of course.
I met a German girl
we
one
teach
time,
slavery to
and
every student.
A school trip is a trip to Auschwitz or Dachau.
Yes.
They learn about their history, and there is not two sides to the story.
We all have to learn about our history, but we also have to recognize that we have to live together, and we're going to do better living together if we don't make each other feel guilty.
And again, that sounds like some of the messaging that Martin Luther King had before he woke up and said, "Nah, we need to come get our money because we've been cheated for so long. We done had land taken away from us. Yeah, we've been cheated. Go look at King's last speech before he was killed, and you'll see where I'm coming from in this instance. Again, man, sorry, white people, if your feelings are hurt for what your ancestors did to get you in position to get here. I'm sorry, and it may not be all your ancestors, but again, we understand there's a legacy of things that help put people in place. If we were excluded from something 50 years ago that allowed somebody to make tons of fucking money 50 years ago, that allowed them to pass that money on to their kids, that's why we have the wealth gaps we have now. If I teach that kid that, hey, your peoples had access to that, that's why you're able to afford that and that and that, or have access to this, this, and this, their feelings are going to get hurt. No, they still have the upper hand. Unless we taking away economics, they still have the upper hand. Fuck your feelings, nigga. Fact is, you still got shit. You still got access to things we want. Ah, man. You know, that's a little frustrating. I never thought I'd agree with Whoopi Goldberg like that. I never thought I did. But she definitely was right on the money on that one. And in Germany, they teach the Holocaust to a T. There's not one detail they try to miss because they try to make sure they never get back to that place ever again. But in America, we can't teach it because it's going to hurt white people's feelings. I don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't. It's your boy, DJTheParkBoy, and I'm here with a special product for you. I got some Delta 8 weed from JK Distro, and I'm saying it's amazing. It's clean, smokable, and the best part is they deliver it right to your door. Because of the 2018 Farm Bill, it's now legal for them to have Delta 8 weed sent through the mail. That's right. And if you use promo code FLOSS1, you can get some clean, smokable weed sent to your door direct. You have options. You go right there to jkdistro.com. You look at all the strands they have, which is a lot. You can even get you some edibles. You can get you some wine. Anything in between you can think of. You put in promo code FLOSS1, you're going to save you 20%. So go ahead, hop on that now. Make sure it's in the description.